Hello and welcome to this Paw boss guide. This one will be one of the bosses from the clan territories, and this video is actually being made because of a comment in a previous video. So if you want to see anything in specific, then make sure you leave a comment down below and I might even make a video on it. If you want to get involved with votes on particular videos or just general questions, then make sure you follow me on Twitter to have your say, and that link will be down below. So firstly, there's a few things to consider with any one of these bosses. Number 1, what boss are you fighting with their strengths and weaknesses? Number 2, your team setup to combat a specific boss. Number 3, your hero setup, again depending on who you use. Number 4, spells and when to use them, and this will vary depending on how quickly it takes for you to defeat the boss. All are just as important as one another, so make sure you're having the right team and hero setup for the right boss, or you could be losing out on many rounds. Especially if it's a throne room 9 or above, and spells can have a big impact on winning extra rounds if you time them right and put some levels into them. So firstly, what do we need to know about Paw then? Well, the 3 main points from this boss would be: firstly, they do spawn in enemies, so having the ace up the sleeve is a must whenever you face a boss that spawns things in that you can kill, giving your team some extra needed damage that scales with the more minions that you actually kill. Secondly, Paw attacks can silence your fighters, so mages will be less effective fighting this boss than the other two because they won't be able to use their spells as often. And lastly, Paw can cause an explosion that draws all your fighters to the very left hand side, making tanks also less effective and wasting their attack time with the extra running around they'll have to do, and also losing out on major hero upgrades like Vampirism and Berserk if they can't hit anything. So what does this all mean? Well, it means mages will miss out on their spells for potential damage or resurrects, and tanks will be wasting their time running around and maybe not healing as much as they could have done if they were right in front of the boss the whole time. This basically means that archers will have the biggest advantage when fighting this boss over mages and tanks. Luckily for myself, I have a full set Bane, so they normally do pretty good for themselves, but for anyone who else might be struggling, either try and put time into 1 or 2 archers, or if you already have, then focus more on the hero for the archer tree for this boss. I do have a hero guide that can help you out if you want to know what the best things to go for, in my opinion, for the best overall squad, and again I'll have a link for that down below. This doesn't mean tanks and mages are completely useless, they'll still have some great firepower, just not as much as what they would have done against Pumbaa or Sporozilla. So onto the team setup. Let's say you have a 6-man barracks for now, and if you have more or less spaces then just change it to how you want. I would recommend having 2 archers, 2 tanks and 2 mages. This will give you a good balance of overall damage and survivability, and if you was to have more people in your barracks to let's say 8 people, then I would recommend having 3 archers and 3 mages instead of 2. As you can see, I run with a slightly different setup to what I just said, but that's because sets can be more powerful than the right setup. If I remove a 4-piece fighter to put in an archer with no set pieces whatsoever, I would be losing out on 2 to 3 rounds, which goes to show it should have been a lot more, but because archers actually work very well against the Paw, it actually made up for the difference. And I'm going to assume most people here watching this guide don't actually have many set pieces or none at all. So I know not everyone's team allows for much flexibility, but if you are struggling, give this setup a try and always work on your weakest areas. If you have a better setup for a 6-man squad, then leave your comments down below on what people should use, as I know a lot of you have some great opinions that can actually help other people out. When it comes to the hero, there's going to be a few options as a must, and then some good choices too. We're going to take a look at what relics are good for this particular boss, and then dive into what things you can upgrade to get the most clan coins you can. So the best relics to use would be between the anchor, symbol of equilibrium, or the horned helmet. This would generally be in the order I would pick them as well, depending on your team, but they all have their own benefits and negatives. Just give them a try and make sure you put some levels into them first to give them a chance. Onto the more basic relics, and based on the team setup I just said before, I would pick Ace Up the Sleeve, Sorcerer's Hat, Robin's Hood and Champion's Belt. Again, this helps out every fighter but gives your archers some extra damage and by a fair bit, but you'll mainly see your team survive and continue the fight for a few more rounds. Everything I'm showing you will need to be upgraded, so just keep that in mind. The better the levels, the better the setup this will be against this and the other bosses. Moving on to what things you can upgrade for your hero, we'll start with the archers, as you want these to have the best stats they can for this boss, so aim for these the best that you can. Vampiric Arrows, Bullseye, Pathfinder's Endurance and Precise Fire are all going to be great options to making your archers not only stay alive, but also deal some crazy amounts of damage. For your tanks, these would be the next best things to go for to improve your squad for Paw, and that would be Vampirism, Berserk, Sharpened Blades and Robust Health. There are many good options for your tanks to make them better at what they are, but I feel these options will always give you the edge you need to improve your squad and get the most clan coins. So lastly, moving on to mages, some of the best things to upgrade would be Double Spell, Absolute Power, Conditioning by Magic, and Sage. Things like Archmage could be good, but by the time you can match the spell power you could put into Sage, the battle would probably already be over, so it's more of a nice touch than it is something to focus on. The other upgrades allow your mages to hit harder and have the chance of doing it multiple times, and if you have Resurrect, then there's nothing bad in being able to do the same spell twice if needed. Moving on to spell selection and timings. For me, I keep it nice and simple and use the Lion Spirit and Cliff's Totem as my main spells when I do bosses. But when it comes to keeping your team alive, using Healing Glade can be a great choice if this is something you need. Just make sure that you use Cliff's Totem before the Healing Glade so that they can work well together, because Cliff's Totem can work over 20 seconds, whereas Healing Glade is only over 3, so you want to make sure that they're taking less damage as they're healing it back. The times to use them are actually more simple than you might think, but there is a bit of a thought process to it. Even if you use spells throughout the whole fight, even at the beginning straight away, you generally don't gain anything over using them as late as possible. This way you can also save on spells for the next round rather than waiting for loads to be rebuilt. So the best ways to go about this is to find what team setup works for you, then stick with them, then have a fight with the boss and don't use any spells. Then keep an eye on the time for when your fighters drop below 50% health. Then, every time whenever you fight this boss with the same setup, you know to use your Cliff's Totem 5 to 10 seconds before that point every time, and then use the other spells as needed. This way you can extend the fight and not waste spells and still gain those extra clan coins over not using spells at all. The timings will be different for everyone, so this is the best way to go about it to finding when you should use it. And if the boss is instantly destroying you, then unfortunately this boss is clearly too strong for yourself right now. And if it's the opposite way around, where the boss is really weak for you and you can destroy many rounds in seconds, then the setup you use might only have a little change because of the increased damage the boss can get, and it'll be much quicker than normal because you're running through the rounds quickly. I really hope that this has been some great information for you guys to give this video a like and get subscribed for future boss videos. And for anyone who is doing the diamond giveaway, you'll know who the winners are in the next week's video, but the actual winners will know sooner than that when I'm messaging them. If you want to be involved with winning 250 diamonds, then make sure you follow me on Twitter. Again, the link is below, and then that way you'll know when the next giveaway starts and you can actually join with that one. So yes, thank you for watching and good luck to anyone that joined.